Okay, it looks like we're ready to begin. So thank you for joining us for our Tuesday classroom session, a very special one in which we're going to be talking about merging clients and shortcuts. So this is something that the help desk has actually gotten a lot of calls regarding the proper way to do this or how to do this over the summer. So we thought it was so important that we should absolutely set aside some time and focus on just this portion of shortcuts. So similar to our other presentations, we'll begin. So of course, the webinar is going to be about 20 minutes. My microphone is on. We are recording. We will share the recording. Your speakers, of course, have to be on to hear anything. Hopefully, you can hear me. You have your notes, and we will allow you to ask questions in the middle of the presentation, or you can always wait until the end, and we will reserve a little bit of time for some questions. So, with these steps in mind, let's actually get to today's lesson. So what is the focus of the client merge? What exactly is a client merge? Why do you need to merge your customers? How do you resolve duplicate customers? So that's the entire premise. And what is one trick that you can do to help speed up your database? So as you all know, Shortcuts allows you to save customers, contact details, histories, things of that nature. But sometimes when you're very busy, you don't necessarily notice that a customer that just came in had a visit with you previously. So you or your front desk or somebody ends up entering that customer twice, or three times or four times. And I was working with a database that actually had customers that had been entered more than a dozen times. And that was really a mistake because it was at an academy and students, rather than searching for the customer, just got in the habit of creating a new client file and entering that customer's information, not realizing that that client had been there a dozen or more times before. So their database was exponentially large and searching through it took forever. So they needed to learn what are the steps, how do we fix this? So that's one way that you end up with duplicate clients. The other is if you're using online booking or if you're using self check-in or if you have the app for your customers, when they create an account, they're actually creating a duplicate client card. And the reason for that is because Shortcuts doesn't necessarily know right away, is this an existing customer that you already have creating an appointment, or does the customer happen to have the same name as an existing customer? So rather than try to automatically merge it, Shortcuts does give you the option. When an online appointment is made, Shortcuts will actually highlight it and say, this customer looks exactly like an existing customer. They seem to have the same name, first and last, and even the same phone number or the same email. And Shortcuts will ask you, would you like to merge these customers if you're using the appointment book? So right away, you can start to merge your online appointments. So, of course, why should you merge your clients? So duplicate clients essentially slow down your computer. So, of course, the longer you've been in business, the more visits you've had. If you've been using online services, the more customers are building. And unless you make it a habit, part of your perhaps end of day process to start merging these duplicate clients, your database is going to start to slow down a little bit. So, this is particularly important if you have lots of visits or if you're a multiple site location. And then you also have the ability to do global searches. So then you may not realize, or your staff might not realize, that you're going through local as well as global clients. So you want to make sure that any information that you have is accurate, it applies to one customer card, and that your system is able to search through these customers really quickly. So we're going to look at the proper steps of why you should merge your clients so that you can speed up your Shortcuts experience, you can speed up your computer. So how do you actually merge the clients? So we're going to do a live demo. So I have a test database that I pulled from one of our customers that I know has hundreds of duplicate customers. So shortcuts will actually give you the steps that you need to perform. But rather than have you read through the steps, I'm going to show you and make sure that you understand visually what do you need to do. So I'm going to exit out of the PowerPoint for just a moment and jump into our database. So I'm in my test environment. So this is something that's essential for every business that has duplicate customers. This is a process you want to make at your end of day. So after you've closed your register, after the last employee has logged out for the day, this is when you should run your client merge. And the reason we do this at the end of the day is because we do not want to accidentally merge customers' histories, transaction records, notes, anything like that in the middle of a trading day. Because the last thing you need is to completely lose any information for a client that's actually in the chair. So always merge your customers at the end of the day. The other thing that I advise is don't try to merge all of the customers that have duplicate cards at the end of each day. You may be dealing with hundreds, or in the case of the academy that I was working with last week, thousands and tens of thousands of duplicates just because the students kept entering the same person again and again. Instead of trying to do all of those in one day, just try to merge 10 or 12 people each night. At the end of a week, you've merged 100 people. At the end of a month, you've merged several hundred people. And if you do that over the span of a few months, you can take down a database that may potentially have thousands of duplicate clients. And then moving forward, at the end of each night, maybe you only have to merge one person or maybe one or two people each week. So what are the steps to do? So we're pretending it's the end of the day. On the right side of the screen, under the main button, I'm going to the clients button. And from the clients screen, on the right side, I'm going to press merge. Now remember, shortcuts will usually give you a list of a previously searched group of customers. I always start fresh every night. So I ignore the clients that I tried to merge previously. And instead, on the bottom left corner, I do a fresh search each night. So every night, do a fresh search, and you're just going to focus on a dozen people at a time. So shortcuts will say, are you sure you want to do a new search? Yes, I do. Now, if your salon has not merged clients in a long time, if ever, then I always start with this option. Tell shortcuts to search for first name and last name only, and search from 0 to 3 months ago. So what you're going to do is you're going to focus on just these clients. And after a few days or a few weeks, once all of those are done, then the next time you do a search, you're going to expand that window, 3 to 6 months, 6 to 9 months, etc., etc. Now, I might not get 0 to 3 months because this is my test database. So I might not have any duplicates here. So I'm going to do a search and see what I have. So first name, last name, 0 to 3 months ago. So shortcuts is checking, and you notice how slow it's going. So of course, the more you start to resolve your duplicates, the faster the search becomes. So it's generating me a list of customers. Excellent. So in this case, it's showing me 521 potential clients out of 2,400 possible duplicate records. So this is the Academy's database that I was mentioning a little bit earlier. Imagine had I searched for an entire year, how huge this list of customers would have been. So when I press done, Shortcuts actually gives me the instructions how to actually perform the merge. But instead of reading it, I'm going to show you what exactly it is you're looking for. So when Shortcuts gives you a list of customers, on the left side, you're going to have first names, and hopefully on your database, you're going to have first names and last names. So you can see why the academy is in trouble, because they only recorded, or the students only recorded first names. We have to go way down the list before we start seeing first and last names. So hopefully your database is already starting on a better foot. So you're going to look at the names, and Shortcuts is going to ask you, okay, I think, or in this case, Shortcuts thinks there should be one master, one main card, and any information from the second card for the customer is what you want to merge. Now, what merge means is that Shortcuts is going to pull the relevant history information, the transaction information, things like that, and put that information up to the master card, the master record. However, in doing so, any secondary phone number, any secondary address, any email that belong to the duplicate card will be deleted, or in this case, inactivated. So it's crucial that as you start reviewing these first names and last names, take a close look, because you may actually have customers with the same first name or last name, because it's a given. So in this case, Than Nguyen, it's a very popular name in the Cambodian or the Vietnamese community. So there is a high likelihood that we actually do have multiple Than Nguyen clients. But of course, in your shop or your salon, you may have a million John Smiths that happen to be actual different John Smiths. So just be careful as you're looking at it, because Shortcut says, I have a match on first name, last name, but as you look at the records, you compare their phone numbers. And if you discover, oh, wait a minute, a couple of my duplicates, and we'll look at this Tammy Nguyen, for example. Let's try to find somebody with a less, Sandra Brooks. There we go. So I think I have a Sandra Brooks, and I only have two Sandra Brooks. Let's see, where is it? We have a lot of duplicates. That's why we want to make sure that students don't get into these bad habits, or the front desk never gets into these bad habits. Okay, so we'll pretend with Sam here. My database is so slow because I have so many duplicate clients. Okay, Long Nguyen. So what I would do is I'd compare their contact details. If the phone numbers seem to match on the first and the second, then I can safely assume, oh, this is the same client. So I'm going to be safe if I merge their details. So Mi Nguyen, I only have two potential Mi Nguyen's. Now in this case, perhaps the phone numbers don't match up. The second one, however, does have an email that I might want to save. If there is a phone number, or there is an email, or there is an address that you actually want to save from the duplicate card, then what you can do is right click on that card, or right click on that particular column, and tell Shortcuts, I want to copy the secondary email or the secondary address up to the master, so that when I merge these clients, I don't lose that information. The other thing that happens, if I tell Shortcuts, copy the phone numbers up to the master, then if the duplicate card actually has a more updated phone list, home, cell, work phone, then it will replace the phone numbers that are already in the main card. So this is why you have to be careful. You have to understand that you may have two customers with the same name, which is why you don't necessarily merge them. But if you know for certain, oh, this is the only customer that I have that has this particular name, then I'm safe telling Shortcuts, okay, I'm going to copy the email up to the main, And then on the right side, I can even take a look and see, does this customer have any visit history? If my duplicate customer has never had a visit with me, perhaps their name was entered by the student accidentally, or their appointment was made online, and this person was a no-show, and eventually they did show up, then I know that if I merge this customer by selecting this checkbox, when the secondary information gets pushed up, the history information gets pushed up to the master, there's really nothing that's going to be added. This customer has never visited. But for other clients, in this case, Michelle, if Michelle has multiple duplicates, then I can tell Shortcuts, okay, include the histories from all of these other visits up to her main card. Okay, so keep that in mind. But again, with a database this large, I have over 500 potential duplicate clients from over 2,400 that it found for the last 3 months. I don't want you to do 100 each night. That would take too long. So instead, you're going to tell Shortcuts, okay, this is the card that I believe to be the master, the main card for this client, and I want you to merge the histories for these other two. So Alyssa, I'm telling it to merge those. For Anna, I can safely assume this is the only Anna I really have. Angelica. So when I come across a situation like this, I try to merge the Angelicas that I have. But Shortcuts actually detects there's potentially two different groups of Angelica. I have my earliest history here in the first group of 3 clients, and then I have a second group. So in the case of 2 groups with the customer having the same name, I would tell Shortcuts, this second group, this is not a master, this is not a main card. There is only one Angelica, and that's this one up at the top. So I want you to merge all of these duplicates. Now, when I have a case of 2 groups, I do not necessarily have the ability to tell Shortcuts, group this Angelica with this Angelica. So I just tell Shortcuts, do not make any of these a main or a merge. Ignore these. So uncheck those boxes. When I press merge, it will combine this first Angelica, and then the second time I search for this customer, it will then ask me, okay, now that I seem to have started to clean up the Angelica list, go through the next ones and merge those. So at the end of each night, I tell Shortcuts, which is my main card, which is the one I want to preserve based on more complete customer details, more customer visits, more recent histories. I can tell Shortcuts to copy any phone numbers, any addresses, or any emails that are in the duplicate cards up to the master. And then at the bottom, I can merge. Now, before I merge, so if I only focus on 10 or 12 each night, what I have to tell Shortcuts is ignore every other card. So I'm going to take master, I'm going to uncheck master off of every other search. And the reason I do this is because I'm telling Shortcuts, I don't want to decide, or I don't want to tell you right now if these are the correct customers for my merge, yes or no. So for this database, I'm not necessarily going to go down and uncheck 500 other customer cards. Hopefully your database is not as bad as this one is. Maybe you only have to scroll and click through a dozen or so, or a few dozen. So normally I would uncheck every other card and tell Shortcuts, ignore these, ignore these. I'm not going to deal with these tonight. I'll look at them tomorrow, I'll look at them the next day. And once I uncheck all of those other masters, then at the bottom of the screen, I would press merge. So Shortcuts is going to combine the first 10 or 12 customers that I told Shortcuts were duplicates, and then when it officially completes merging them, Shortcuts is going to exit. And when Shortcuts exits, that's your note. That's when you know that it's okay to restart Shortcuts. A dozen customers have now been merged. Your database is a little bit faster. So then the following night, you repeat the steps. After you close your register, after your employees log out, you go to the Clients button. You press the Merge button, and you ignore the screen that it finds because these were clients from yesterday's search. Instead, you're doing a fresh search again. You tell Shortcuts, yes, I'm going to ignore the old list and I'm going to do a new search. I want to search first name, last name, and from 0 to 3 months ago. And when you search, that list is now a little bit shorter. It's going to ignore the customers that have been merged and say, okay, now focus on this next group. Eventually, you will clear out all of those customers. And if I had done this over the span of a few days, I would have cleared out 500 duplicate clients. And then once that is done, I can then tell Shortcuts, search 3 to 6 months ago, and I'm going to start clearing up that list. Eventually, you'll work your way up to an entire year or multiple years worth of duplicates. And then once that is done, your database is going to be running much, much faster. Okay, so that's why it's important that you only do a few dozen, or at least a dozen each night. And then you tell Shortcuts, okay, ignore the rest. I'm not going to deal with the rest right now. I will deal with them eventually. And then press merge. So nope, I'm not going to save my list. So this is something that's going to take me a few days to deal with. So let's go back to the presentation. So make this your end of day process. Make this a habit. Whether you do it, whether your receptionist does it, somebody on staff does it, just do a few each night. And in the span of a month or a couple of months, you will have cleared hundreds of duplicate records. Okay, so just repeat the process each night. Search, first name and last name, 0 to 3 months, merge a few clients at a time, and then do the search the following day, and just work your way up the list. So once you start merging your clients, once you start speeding up the process, if you want to make sure that moving forward, you're less likely to deal with duplicates, or if there's another way for Shortcuts to keep your system running smoothly, you actually have the ability to make customers that haven't visited you in a few years inactive. And you want to set this up before running your next system maintenance. So in addition to merging clients to speed up your database, you can also deactivate old clients. So how do you do that? So in Shortcuts, if you have one of the newer or one of the recent builds of Shortcuts, this is a process that we've added. So I'm going to show you the particular windows that you go to. But if you want to just write them down, you're going to go to Setup, Configuration, then you're going to go to the General button and into the Data Privacy button. So the Data Privacy button is a relatively new button in Shortcuts. There is a bar, a line that allows you to enter how many years before Shortcuts will deactivate a client card. Is it 2 years? Is it 3 years? Is it 4 years? You're going to enter that. And the next time you exit Shortcuts, you may be presented with the system maintenance window, where Shortcuts will ask you, would you like to run your system maintenance now? When you do that, Shortcuts is going to optimize the database by looking at old client cards, and if they hit that 2-year, 3-year, 4-year mark, then it's going to make them inactive. So that speeds up your searches. So let's actually walk through where you have to go again. So I'll exit this presentation, and again, we'll bring up our live database, or our demo database in this case. So I'll go back to the main screen, the appointment book that most of you know. So if I want to change the preference, again, follow along, you're going to go to Setup, Configuration, and once you're in the configuration window, remember General is on the left side of the screen, bottom left corner. So under General, you're going to go to Data Privacy. It's the screen with a little lock icon. And once you're here, the second line, remove non-returning clients after they have, so after X amount of years. So I can say, if a customer has not visited me in 3 years, make that card inactive. So once I press done, then Shortcuts will ask me, am I ready to save my changes? Yes, I am. So now Shortcuts says, okay, I have something that I need to do the next time system maintenance is running. And for most of you, you usually see your system maintenance come up once a week or once every few weeks. The next time you go to Main and Exit Shortcuts at the very bottom of the screen, Exit, Shortcuts may present you, it's time to run system maintenance. If I press Run Now, this is where Shortcuts is going to deactivate customers that have not visited me in the past 3 years. So if you are not already using this, go ahead and use this feature. So this is also going to help me deal with a lot of these clients and the performance of the database. So just remember those steps. Now, I noticed a few people have joined us a little bit late for this presentation. Don't worry, because we are recording like we normally do for our Monday classroom sessions. So we will share this link with you to walk you through the process of merging duplicate clients. So if you're joining us, don't feel bad. You will get a chance to review this. The other way, of course, to speed up your database, deactivate clients that haven't visited you in a number of years. So you'll have all of those steps now. So that is everything there is about client merge. So now you should know how to resolve your duplicates, how to keep your system running smoothly, and of course, tricks that will help you the next time you perform your exit on Shortcuts and your maintenance. So we're going to open up the floor for questions. So if you have a question, on the right side of the screen, you can go ahead and ask. And it looks like we already have a question. Let's go back. Why isn't the message in client card not merging? So Alex has a question. Why isn't the message in client card not merging? Why isn't the message in client card not merging? Oh, the messages. Okay. So I was trying to figure out what Alex was talking about. So let's go back. So the things that normally merge when we're dealing with duplicate customers, those are not necessarily messages that are recorded here in the customer's contact details. If you have something important, a color formula, a visit note, something like that, you really do not want to record them here under messages. This is not what this was designed for. Anything important, you actually want to go into the customer's history and save it in their history notes. Because histories are actually connected to transactions, to visit dates, even if the customer received a free service. At the point of sale, when that transaction is recorded, that history note is saved in the system. So your color formulas should be in your histories. If a customer has a preferred hairstyle, if it's any important relevant piece of information, don't save it in the message window for the client card. Save it in their history. Now, what the message window is designed for is general information about the client. So this is really meant only for the staff to look at, never for the client, because This does not show up on any report. It does not show up on any other screen. This is only for the staff to know a little bit about the client. It could be general information like this customer has been in town for 3 months, or they have a couple of kids that also get their haircut here. These are their names. So it's just so you know a little bit about the client. That information is not pertinent on transactions or history. So that's why that information would not be transferred over when you merge the clients. So be aware of that. If it's important, don't put it on message. Save it. Save that information in their history. That information will be combined when you merge the clients. All right, so never use this. And this is another bad habit that this Academy's database that we're dealing with got into. All of those color formulas, things like that, those were being saved in the message window. That's a really bad habit. Don't get into that. All right. Now, Ashley has a question. What if someone you deactivate comes back? So remember, in shortcuts, we would never recommend deleting customers, deleting services, deleting products, because there's the potential that a customer may return or move back, or you start carrying another product, or you add an old service back to your menu. That is why in shortcuts on each of the main screens, customers, services, inventory, you always have a little checkbox that tells shortcuts, I want you to show me my inactive items. In this case, show me those old customers that I made inactive, whether by merging them or whether by just manually telling shortcuts that this certain client, and this is under the client card, on the right side there's an extra details. I can manually make customers inactive if I think they've moved away or I haven't seen them in a number of years. I can do that. I can press extra details, make them inactive. But if they return, I can tell shortcuts, show me my inactive customers. I can search for them. And when I find them again, I can go back into their card and I can uncheck the active. So I can bring them back. I can bring Danny back, for example. Oh, Danny's moved back. So let me save him. And now the next time I do a search, Danny's name will come up on my list. So I hope that answers that question, Ashley. So we would never recommend deleting customers. Only make them inactive. Same with services and products. Okay. Now, something I didn't do is actually show you if a customer has an online appointment. So online appointments, again, customers, and let me go backwards in time because this is an old database. I have to look for appointments that might have been added. Let's see, do I have anything? How did they use this database? Huh, well, that's curious. So normally, when an appointment is made in person with your front desk or yourself, when that appointment shows up in your appointment book, it normally shows up in green. So shortcuts just lets you know this is a standing appointment. So in this case, well, normally it's green, but I've just chosen a service that not everybody can perform. Let me change it to something simple like a haircut. Here we go, shampoo, cut and style. There it is. So appointments made on the system normally show up in green. That's to let you know this is a regular appointment, nothing special about it. When an appointment is made online, it actually shows up in yellow. So whether the customer used the Google to make an appointment, went to your Book Me page, made an appointment, used the app to make an appointment, it always shows up in yellow to bring attention to it. When your staff right-clicks on that appointment and they go to review it, at this point, Shortcuts is going to look at the customer's name and number and try to find a duplicate and say, hey, this appointment that was just made online, this customer looks exactly like the client that you already have history for. Would you like to merge these customers? Yes or no? So right away, you or your front desk or anybody on staff can review it, find the match, and merge it then and there. You don't have to wait until the end of the night. But this only happens, of course, if your customers was making an appointment online and they had a match on first name, last name, and a contact number. So get in the habit of reviewing those. And if you can, find the match and merge it. And somebody else has a question. So let's go back. And let's see. Somebody had their hands up. Did anybody else have a question? Let me check the chat window. Sometimes people type a message in the chat window. I don't see anything there. Let me check the question window again. No. Okay. So who had their hands raised? Okay. I think I've answered all of those questions. All right. Does anybody else have any other questions regarding duplicates or client merges or anything of that nature? Okay. If not, I think it's safe to wrap up this presentation. So remember, don't try to merge everybody all in one fell swoop, especially if you're dealing with hundreds of potential duplicates. Just do a dozen each night. If time permits, do 2 dozen. And then the next night, repeat the process. And in the matter of a few weeks, your database will be running much, much faster. Okay. So of course, if you think of any questions after the fact, if anything comes up after the fact, or you're having difficulty, or you just need to get in contact with us, go ahead and reach out to us, customer care USA at shortcuts.net. We are on social media, so if you ask your question on Facebook, we will get back to you. And of course, just give us a call. So thank you for attending. Of course, we normally have Monday classroom sessions. So historically, we look at one particular piece of shortcuts that every salon, every spa, every barbershop should know about. So if you have a new employee or a manager that needs to get up to speed or an owner that hasn't used a feature in a long time, be sure to sign up for our Monday classroom sessions. And after a few weeks, you will be completely caught up with the operations and shortcuts. So thank you everybody for attending. I hope you had a good Labor Day if you celebrated yesterday, and if you worked yesterday, I'm sorry. Hopefully you'll have a Monday off in the near future. All right, everybody. Thanks for attending. I'm going to end this presentation and we'll be sending a link out to everybody shortly.